Today on The Breakthrough Effect, I'm talking with Arjun Dhingra, a man who transforms backs against the wall moments into world championship victories. As a two-time Taekwondo world champion, former Team USA co-head coach, and 23-year mortgage industry veteran, Arjun has mastered the art of turning adversity into breakthrough rocket fuel. He hosts the LFG Energy podcast and founded the LFG Society, a movement that redefines what it means to go all in. His philosophy: when fear shows up, that's your cue to lean in even harder. Arjun is living proof that breakthrough success isn't about avoiding adversity, it's about becoming the person who thrives because of it. Get ready for a breakthrough conversation that will challenge everything you thought you knew about resilience, risk taking, and the hidden forces that separate champions from everyone else. Please welcome to the show Arjun Dhingra. Arjun, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, brother. What an intro, man. That like you should have been my hype man a long time ago. You're amazing. That was amazing. Thanks, man. And I'm a big fan of what you're doing in the entrepreneurial space, and you inspire so many people, man. So this is a huge privilege to be on with you.
Likewise, I'm a huge fan of yours as well, and I just want to give my audience a chance. Give you a chance to do a shout out at the end. If you're not following Arjun, please do. Guys like this, you need to get between your ears. He has a phenomenal podcast, an incredible community. Follow him on Instagram. I get energy from you just following your stories on Instagram. A lot of it's mortgage based, but I just love your energy. So thank you for what you're doing to the world here today.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you, man.
Well, let's get right into it. I'm excited for this conversation. I want to get right to the nuts and bolts. You talk about going all in versus just trying hard. My question: what's the difference? And how does somebody know if they're going, quote, all in versus holding something back?
It comes down to belief, and belief has basically two spokes to it. One is belief in yourself, which you have to have. You have to believe in yourself, even when you don't feel your best. There's a difference there because a lot of people feel like, well, I'm not at my best or whatever, but you still believe. You believe in the cause, the mission, your capacity, your ability to actually do this. So you have to have belief in yourself. And then you also need to believe in what it is that you're moving towards. That is so huge. So anything that we're doing in life, it's going to come down to that. And I feel like that is ultimately what will create that breakthrough. And remind me there, Jared, the beginning part of that question there. You can edit this part out. The beginning. How did you answer? Ask
Yeah,
that?
how do you know, like, what's the fundamental difference, and then how do you know? Because again, a lot of people say like, "Well, I am going all in," but
Yeah,
you can kind of sense that they're
that's it.
not. How do they know that?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you, man, for that reminder there. I'm still like down a cup of coffee today. So you will know that you are all in once you have established first and foremost that whole belief equation, right? Having belief in yourself and belief in what it is you're going towards. If you have that, you will be all in. And the reason I say this, and I'm going to tie it back to industry, right? Like my industry, for example, because I work in mortgage and real estate. Right now, the market and the headlines and the world is a little bit tumultuous. It's a little volatile. Consumers are very scared because doom sells, right? Bad news sells, and they're reading in the media that the sky is falling and that the mortgage and housing market may be collapsing, and we don't know what's going to happen, tariff talk, whatever. So consumers are not all in. They're maybe at like 50 or 60% all in. So me, as a service provider, I had better be all in at 100%. And that comes down to belief again, belief in myself and belief in the asset class or what it is I do, right? I don't have to be at my best, but I have to have belief. If I have that, and consumers will be able to be guided. That's my only shot of being able to lead somebody to the promised land. If I'm at 99, it's not going to work because they aren't there. They're at 40, 50, 60% because of everything going on. And they will smell that the way a shark smells blood in the water. And so, for those of you that are listening that maybe aren't feeling as effective in your craft or in your trade, but there's something missing there, like it should be working better, double check that belief quotient because you have to be all in on what you're doing. Otherwise, people will see it. People are too clever. They're too smart. We can't fool people despite our, sometimes what we might think or how we perceive the marketplace to be or looking on Instagram or whatever that everyone's so easily fooled. They're not. People can see right through and they have a better kind of fake meter, if you will, on people and what they're saying. So that's basically how I define what being all in is.
That's fantastic. I was not expecting you to answer that question that way, but I love how you answered that belief. I think you would agree. I believe that like you do yourself such a disservice if you go 99% in and not 100, because there's a chasm between 99 and 100.
Massive.
What is the lie? Like, you've worked with some high achievers, you got your community, you're compelling people to do this, go all in. What is the fundamental lie that people are telling themselves that prevent them from like going from the 99 to 100, that magical last 1%?
Well, one thing is definitely a limiting belief, is that maybe they're not deserving of it, right? And you and I share a lot of common people that we look up to, coaches, guys like Craig, that talk about those things that hold people back. Maybe there's not a greater purpose attached to it or a greater meaning, but there's sometimes that thing that's holding them back. And so people will actually not be able to make that jump from 99 to 100. And for everyone, it's a little bit different. As a coach, and you guide people as well, it's very important for us to know what people's response patterns are. The one size fits all kind of approach to education, which is why a lot of education can be disputed as not being very good in our system today, because it's one size fits all and every kid is different. Every child learns differently. Adults are the same way, and the response patterns and how we get people to perform or make that jump and adjustment is going to be different. So as learners or people that are actually trying to guide people, we need to make sure that we understand where people are coming from and meet them on their level, get to know them, go a little bit deeper so that we can actually affect change in them. But for those that are actually doing the thing, it's important that you're being guided by someone who sees the world this way. But you've got to understand and try and figure out what that thing is that may be holding you back. Because I call it the silver medalist, right? The silver medalist kind of dilemma. A silver medalist was literally one decision away. They could have easily traded. The bronze medalist, their pathway to a gold medal is a little different in how they fell into that bronze category. It's still worthy and worthwhile and a massive accomplishment, no matter what the trade is or the competition. But the silver medalist was either 1 point, one decision, 1 second, one something away. So 99 to 100, right? Sometimes there's very little that separates the two. So what is it that has to be done to convert that from being a silver medalist or the runner-up to actually swapping places with that person that was the gold medal winner? Many times it comes down to a limiting belief. In other cases, it's just the slightest small adjustment. So small. It's not a massive overhaul, right? I heard Tony Robbins say this at an Unleash the Power Within event that I was at. He was talking about his golf game. And ironically, it was his golf instructor that got me tickets to that event because I knew him through someone. And he was talking about his golf game. We talked about the adjustment on his swing, and that it was called the 2 mm rule. It was literally when they kind of like dissected and really analyzed how, and I'm the world's most shit golfer, by the way, so I made no insult or disrespect to anyone that's listening to this that's a golfer, so this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But in holding the club and the positioning of his wrists and how things were angled, it literally came down to 2 mm. And when they adjusted that with his swing, the ball went where he wanted it to go. It went straight. He wasn't hooking or slicing. Those are the kind of adjustments, and we can go deeper on that, and that's perhaps for another conversation of what people need to look at individually. But it sometimes just comes down to something so small when making that jump to 99 and 100. I don't mean small in significance. It's very significant what it is, but the actual adjustment is something smaller. You don't have to make a massive overhaul if you fell short. It's not going back to the drawing board and throwing it all out, starting all over, rock bottom. It's not like that. So that's my answer for you in terms of the 99 to 100 quotient. It's sometimes small, but before that, look closely, because it might actually be a limiting belief that you feel you're not worthy of it, you're not deserving of it, there's fear that's holding you back, or something else greater that you may not be paying attention to.
Yeah, you nailed it. It was like, that's the smallest sliver to 100 to the gold medal, but it's the hardest one to overcome, but yet the most powerful one to overcome as well. I think that we're on the same page. Like, we believe in the whole mindset thing. This is, I love, first of all, I love you. With the moment I met you, I was like, this guy is just so awesome. We're like almost exactly the same age, which I think is ironic. But I think that there is something to be said about our generation of people, no disrespect to people older or younger, but we were raised in a very specific time in human history, like where our lives pre 18 years old was like pre-internet, and we were raised by baby boomers and Gen Xers, and now we're entering a whole different phase. But there is something aligned with people kind of that grew up the way that we grew up, where We had to be awakened because of how we were raised in many instances that this stuff is so powerful. When was the first time that you realized that this stuff, air quotes, mindset, getting to that 100%, that championship mindset, like going all in? When did you really realize just how powerful this was?
I think it came by way of influence of my football coaches, actually, because I grew up in Reno, Nevada, and the high school I went to was very much the Varsity Blues high school. Ironically, they had the same colors too, blue and gray and white, and we were the best football program in the northern part of the state. Year in and year out, they were always competing for a state championship. Now, that was not by accident. There was a program and a process in place. And that kind of discipline in playing 4 years. I mean, I was the smallest guy on the team, so that tells you exactly how productive and contributive I was as a football player to the team. I was more of the team comedian, but they were the greatest lessons in my life in terms of things I still draw from, the greatest friendships. I'm still close friends with everyone. I'm still very close to all these football coaches. We keep in touch because they're father-like figures. But there was a certain level that they operated at, and it was perfect for young men who were in a position to be influenced, particularly in the way of changed behavior and how they're going to see the world, that you don't accept mediocrity. There's always another wall to break through. You don't settle. You're only as good as your last win. And that, I just remember, as you were asking this question, it was what profoundly kind of spoke to me right there. I went back to those 4 years because there was a certain standard of excellence that these guys required, and that's why the program, by no accident, was as good as it was, and we benefited from it. And I've carried those lessons forward, and I'm sure you were an athlete as well. If you weren't, you'd have me fooled, man, from your Instagram and how jacked you are, man. Like you're clearly someone who takes fitness and trying to be better to another level. But yeah, that would be it, brother. It was those 4 years and those formative years, I should say, and kind of put with an asterisk or an underline from these guys and the mindsets that they impressed upon us. And that was kind of this like either awakening moment that the world is different. I'm different. I'm a part of something special here, and I need to make sure I have a great responsibility to kind of apply this into every other aspect of my life.
I love it. And again, I connect with that. I did play college basketball, by the way.
I
And
would hope so, man. You're so freaking tall. Like it would have been an absolute sin if you didn't contribute somehow.
I was the smallest player at my position, believe it or not.
Jeez. Yeah.
Big shout out to the University of North Dakota back in the day. My coach, he was big on MTXE, mental toughness, extra effort. And that stuck with me. And again, the reason why I brought up our childhood is because I think we were just kind of raised in a little bit of a tougher time. The parenting back then was a little tougher. And I'm not poo-pooing parenting nowadays. You've got young kids like I do. And, I would venture to guess that we're raising them probably in a different environment than what we raised, with what we were raised in. But to your point, those it was tough. Coaches were tough on us, and not to say there's not coaches that are tough on us, but like now as a almost 47-year-old guy, I'm like reawakening to those lessons of like, oh yeah, that's what made that so special, and now it's kind of almost coming full circle.
100%. Those coaches were hard on us. I mean, let me put it this way: the kind of coaching that you and I went through would not be tolerated in today's society. And whether you want to argue with that's good or bad, that's for another conversation.
Yes.
I think it all just comes down to your only frames of reference. Like if you didn't grow up in that era, or you weren't exposed to that, it would seem like, oh, that you can't deal with, you can't talk to people that way, you can't be coached that way, you can't coach that way. Be coached or actually coached. Like it's too harsh, it's not sensitive enough, it's not endearing enough. Like it was a lot of tough love. And they were pretty physical with us, man. Like, I mean, like some of these guys would be in jail by today's standards, right?
Yes.
Like you would have called child services on them. Like you can't do that to my kid. Well, you know what? It actually, not sound like back in my day, but it made a man out of me. In a lot of ways, it really did. And it's not to say that I think you have to be very physical and overbearing with people. It was the right environment for it. And it was football, competitive football at a high level. You played competitive basketball at a high level. So these are different arenas, but I agree with you, man. Like it was a different time, and so you're kind of molded a little bit differently. And let's be honest, like our parents' generation was probably even harder, right? So they were molded differently, which explains why they were harder on us. So my hope is in raising my daughters and the people, all the athletes that I've coached over the years and still stay connected to, is I try and carry some of that forward. Yes, I've got to dial back some, and I have to adhere to the environments I'm in. But that spirit And that anchor from those, from those days and those lessons are still very much in me. And I, apply them to everyone that I come into contact with some way.
Well, you've got a great mix, and I think that's what I'm learning at my age is that it's not just all grind, grind, grind. There's a little bit more finesse, mental side, spiritual side, emotional side. So it's a great mix of the both to find that sweet spot in life, and that's where you create the breakthrough. And I know that's what you agree with, and how you coach as well.
Absolutely.
You talk about inflection points. I find this fascinating. I've heard the story of how you had this moment that you took advantage of in Vegas that helped create your society. I would love for you to share that story and just talk about how people can recognize these moments in time that if you take advantage of them, create this breakthrough and this massive inflection point that you look back on and you say, man, that was the moment where everything changed.
Yeah, every story has an origin point, and most of those origin points come down to a moment, not a long paragraph, sometimes even a singular word or a feeling. So when I started LFG Energy, it was, I didn't really have an idea of how it was going to turn out. I just had this concept and I was trying to ideate it and flesh it out and see what it might be. But I had started watching a lot of vlogs during the pandemic of Ryan Serhant, and the star of $1 Million Listing, the biggest real estate brand in the world. And the guy has like so much swag to him and charisma and this energy. And he wears suits, and I love to wear suits. So I kind of identified him. I'm like, what's this guy all about? I just thought it, initially it was just a reality TV show D-bag. But when I started watching him a little bit on these vlogs during the pandemic, because I needed an outlet, it was just kind of a dark, weird time, and work was really crazy and hectic. And so this would be my escape. I was really drawn to him. I'm like, dude, I like what this guy's all about. There is some substance, some gravitas towards him. So I said, I got to meet this guy one day. So I was in Vegas at a conference. I spoke on day 1. He was speaking on day 3, on the final day in Las Vegas, which is always dangerous because day 3 of a conference in Las Vegas means your crowd is probably half the size because everyone's either hungover, in jail, still on the tables, or they've been summoned home by their wives. Like they've got to get their ass home now. Like you get home early because you didn't answer your phone last night. You know what I'm talking about, Jared. So
Okay.
I knew where the speakers go, where the green room was, because I had been there 2 days prior, and I knew the 2 big bouncer guys that were kind of like blocking the door. So I just said, look, man, you got to take your shot. You have to take your shot. This is a moment here. And what's the worst thing that could happen? I get turned away. Maybe I get muscled by these big guys and thrown out. Who knows? But if I don't go back there and take a shot at trying to meet this guy, I don't know if I'll get another chance because everything's kind of lining up right now, right? So I went back there and, worked out beautifully. Like the guys recognized me. I walked right through the door, and then I thought he was going to have this whole crew around him, but there was no one around him other than his videographer because he was in and out for the trip. He literally flew in, on a reverse red eye coming to Vegas from New York, was going to speak, and then he was out of there to get back to New York. So he just had one dude with him. So I made eye contact with him as I kind of opened the door. I saw him. I walked right towards him. We shook hands. But it started something. I took that shot. That's the inflection point. That's the moment at which I bet on myself. And then it spun my career into a totally different space. A space that has put me in rooms with other people that helped lead me to a guy named Craig, which helped lead me to a guy named Jared, who I'm now on his podcast. Like these moments just keep, like you can just keep pulling the string and then you can see where it alters the entire trajectory of your life. So one room, one handshake, one elbow rub, one thing that you might hear, like it's a moment, guys. Like it's literally that delicate. And everybody who's anywhere in this life, irrespective of the levels of success they may have, will say the same thing, that if they really look back on it, it came down to a moment. It came down to that one handshake or that event that I didn't want to necessarily go through. I was a little bit afraid to do the thing, but I still did the thing. And then everything turns from there. So that's how our media company, that's how this LFG brand was born. And then since that, the podcast, the society, my online community, like all of it is just spun from it, but it happened in that moment.
It's an incredible story. I thank you for sharing that. What does that moment look like for you now? And maybe even to people listening to this, they're maybe stuck in a W-2 that they don't like. They have this aspiration to build a business, to like put more energy into like a side hustle, like whatever that may look like in all of its capacities to anybody listening. Like that moment, is that taking action, writing an email, making a phone call? what are some examples of taking advantage of perhaps this massive inflection point?
I think it comes down to, Jared, one step before that, which is an acknowledgement or recognizing something. We go back to those football days that I was telling you about. One of my coaches, who I actually was texting with just the other day, because he loved my name, Arjun. So on June 1st of every year, he calls it Arjun month because he just like kind of makes fun of me. So it was June 1st a few days ago. He sent me a text. We were back and forth on the dialogue on that. But he said something to me that has always stuck, and I've shared it with every athlete and every person that's at a potential inflection point, whether they recognize it or not, which is that you have to accept the finality, or have a sense of finality around everything that you're doing. He was saying this to us as seniors. It sounds cheesy, but he was telling us as seniors, this is the last time you're going to go through the summer program. This is the last time we're going to have the fall kickoff. This is the last time you'll go through the playoffs. And if it all works out well, guys, this is the last time you'll have a shot at a state championship. You have to embrace that. There is no more tomorrow. Like, this is it. And in life, because it is so fragile, we think we have unlimited time, and yes, we want to be patient through things. It's kind of tough. Like, we've got to weigh that, like, we have to have some acceptance of, being patient about things. But then in the same breath, there needs to be a sense of urgency around everything we're doing, because time is finite, energy is finite. We don't know when things are going to end, and the world is pretty fragile. So for those that are kind of coming upon that point, I would first ask you to accept the finality. And I don't mean to be grim or even like speaking so universally, but just of your life. Like, what kind of meaning do you want your life to have? You and I are 47, approaching 47 years old. I think like our generation and the generations behind us we're gonna have more centenarians, like people that live to 100 and beyond. So it's basically almost halftime, Jared. What do you do at halftime? You go into the locker room and you make adjustments. You ask yourself what's working, what's not, and what do we want this second half to look like if we're gonna win? So wherever you are in life, acknowledge and accept the sense of finality around it, that you get one shot, right? You get multiple chances, but the one shot is life. And life is also too short to be doing shit that we don't want to do, And fortune favors the bold, right? Like, if you take that chance, and I know it's easier said than done, because some people are so kind of, risk averse, either because of conditioning or something that's happened, or you're just afraid, and I get that. But if you're stuck in something, and you want there to be a change, it literally just comes down to a decision where you say enough. Maybe you've accepted this sense of finality, but you just don't want to do anything more, and you want your life to mean something else. And also, if you have children, the example that you want to set. Like, imagine it was one of your kids coming to you in a conundrum that they felt stuck. What advice would you give them? Stay there? No, you'd be telling them make the move. So if you're willing to give out that advice, then why can't you take your own medicine yourself, right? So I look through life a lot that way. Like, whenever I come upon something hard, and for those listening, I want you to do the same. If you have children or people that look up to you, or that you're kind of either mentoring, whatever, it doesn't matter. They don't have to be your kids. It could be your nieces and nephews or whatever. Think about them if they were to ask you that question, and what advice you would give them. It's probably different than the advice you're initially giving yourself, because yours is rooted in fear. You're being a little bit too cautious, a little bit too conservative, or maybe you're just in a rut, and you're just kind of freely speaking with this great energy and sense of optimism and opportunity and outlook and limitless like vision to them. So why not apply that to yourself, right?
That's right.
That's what we have to do. That's the premise of your book. It's all on the other side of that, right? Like, that
Right.
life you want. Like, everyone is deserving of it, guys. Everybody really is. So regardless of whether it's a career change, it's a life change, it's a fitness change, or whatever, you decide, you accept that there's a sense of finality, and you get one shot at doing this. So let's fucking go. Let's go. Seriously, let's go.
Dude, it's so powerful. And again, I hope the people that are listening to this, you can get this in your soul, because it's so powerful, because you live and you end up kind of living in a duality. And I want to hear your opinion on this.
Yeah.
It's like you kind of transport to the future, and not, this is okay. I'm going off the deep end here, but like, we always live in the moment. True or false? Yes, we're always connected to the moment. But our vision is always planted into the future, whether that's a year, maybe understanding that, like, there is going to be a finality of our life someday. And we're able to live this moment through that lens, right? Like, through that lens of like, man, in 20 years, I would kill to have this moment with my kid when she's 6, or my daughter when she's 8, or my son when he's 14. When he's 34, I would pay anything to have this moment. I would pay anything to like go back to 2000 and whatever and like go after that one thing and go to that conference and maybe approach Ryan at that conference in Vegas. So powerful. I know that you live like that as well. Do you vision like the end, or are you visioning kind of like a year out? Where do you kind of plant that future like that future goalpost for you?
All of it, brother. I do a little bit of both. It's sometimes a week out, it's sometimes way far out. I'll give you two things. One, there was another thing I was going to tie into that whole the sense of finality. The other thing that I feel everyone should do. There was a book, I can't remember who wrote it. I read it. I need to reread it, but it was like the five regrets of the dying, the top
Yep.
five regrets of the dying.
Yep.
And amongst almost every single person that you ask this question to, I heard Gary Vee say it. He's like, you want perspective on life? Go volunteer at a senior home and sit down and like just volunteer and help, whether it's serving meals or sitting down and playing chess or checkers with people, and just ask them like, hey man, what would you do differently? Almost all of them, every single one, it'll be the same answer across the board, or somewhere in the answers buried. I should have taken that chance. I should have done the thing, right? It's that regret. And there's no greater like weight or jail sentence than regret, to like live with that in your heart. So if you can think about that in the future, like you just said, to your point, if you can fast forward and say, man, if I had that and I had a chance, I'd do anything to change it. Well, you do. And I think it's a very healthy exercise that we like kind of fast forward in our life and say, what might I be regretful for if I don't do the thing or whatever? Because you get this great opportunity, either like a film or like, you know, like another parallel universe, to be able to come back to the present where you are now and actually do something about it. So I think it's a very, very healthy thing that we should do. But for me personally, I think about the immediate future. I try and stay very present, but I think in the immediate future. And then I also think about 10 to 20 years out and what I want life to look like. What kind of a dad do I want to be? A member of society, a husband, a son, a brother, like my main responsibilities in life, right? A member of this community, like a productive member of it. So if you're thinking about things in that context, I think you will always have both feet on the ground, but you'll always have this like refreshed, renewed here and now perspective that you can bounce back and forth between. Because
Yes.
I had an event called the Better Human Project back in February, and it was focused on just that, being a better human. We didn't talk about business, nothing. It was about 250 people here in San Francisco. And I opened the event and I talked about, and I asked everyone to come up with one word, the one word that they want to be remembered by, or that everyone seems to be saying at their funeral, at your funeral. When you die, whether there's 5 people there, 500 or 5,000, doesn't matter. Your children, your great-grandchildren, or your nieces and nephews, whatever it is, the children that are the young people, what's the one word you want them to remember you by? One word only. And it can, I mean, you know, it's different for everyone. A lot of people may have some of the same ones, but whatever that one word is, you got to burn that into your mind and etch it into your heart. And every day, try and move a little bit towards that one word. If you're doing that, you're living a full life, and you're being in integrity to your future self. Everything else in the middle will kind of fill in. We all fall off that road from time to time. Like, we're all humans, right? You'll fall off the road. You might have some bad weeks, bad months. You might even have a bad year. It's okay. Just get back and keep moving towards that. Even if you took steps backward, take steps towards that. And if you do, life will have greater meaning, and all of this will tie together.
It's beautiful. I want to start to land this plane here in just a couple of minutes, but I have to ask you this.
Yeah,
You know,
brother.
I think you would agree, like it's the action that you're doing today, driven by a future self vision, whether a year, 18 months, or 20 years, or maybe your death date, right? That's pushing you to take uncomfortable action today, right? How do you stay in that zone where you're making sure it's constantly action that's aligned, but also putting us kind of in this zone that's making us feel a little bit fluttery, but knowing that it's pushing us forward? How do you stay in that rhythm? To me, I view it as like 50% excitement. My emotion should be 50% excitement, 50% holy crap, what am I doing, hanging on for dear life, which is countercultural for how I lived for so many years. It was like 100% comfortable all the time.
Yeah.
Where do you put your emotions, and how do you stay kind of in that perfect ratio that keeps you expanding and growing?
There's an expression I have that I used to tell people in coaching, and I first learned it for myself before I could ever teach it or give it back to people. It's called being equal to the moment. If a moment is big, then you need to be big, tempered by that quotient that you beautifully laid out of excitement and rationale, and like, holy crap, what am I doing? But there's also excitement and optimism for it. You need to be equal to the moment, because if you're too big for a moment, such as being arrogant, cocky, underestimating it, overlooking it, you won't show it its due respect, and therefore you'll be cheated out of the experience that it was intended to give you, the moment, right? Because everything is a teaching moment. If you're too small for it, meaning you come in cowering, you're not confident, you have no belief, you're out of your league, or you actually believe that, you're going to get swallowed up like a wave spits out a surfer and just like spun out. But if a moment is big, you be big. So the way I stay tempered is I just match each moment. Okay, never coming in bigger than the moment, never smaller than the moment, but being absolutely equal to the moment. And it's a practice, and it's a bit of an art, and it takes constant at bats. The great thing is you've got these all around you guys. Forget about cold plunging every week and the health benefits of it. Everyone should be pressure plunging. If you put yourself in moments or situations of pressure, there's growth on the other side of it, and then you'll get to apply what I'm talking about. I try and make it a point to be in a pressure situation at least 2 to 3 times a week. Whether it's speaking on a webinar or it's a public speaking forum, you do the same thing, Jared, because you're out there doing so much. Even on this podcast, I have a responsibility to this audience and to this fantastic host that I'm proud to call a friend to deliver here. This is a moment of pressure, right? I need to be equal to that moment. So that's how I stay tempered, brother. And I hope the listeners can take that and apply that in their own lives as well.
It's fantastic, and I appreciate that, and I receive that. Same to you. You know, the 2 hours before this, it's go time. It's get ready, get physically ready, mentally ready, make sure my questions are on point. Not because of stress. Stress kills. Pressure, though, where you're in this healthy pressure zone, I love how you said it. That's an art form that people need to learn how to live their life in, because those moments won't just show up automatically. You have to, there's intention there that puts you in those arenas, rooms, tables to then level up to the pressure. Beautifully said, my man. I've never heard that before.
Thank you, brother. It's a privilege, right? That expression that pressure is privilege, it's very true. Like if you're in a position of pressure, that is because of massive privilege that's been bestowed upon you, and to whom something is given, much is expected, right? If you've been given this opportunity under this pressure, there's a lot expected of you to come out and do something with it. So seize it as an opportunity rather as an, oh, why is this happening to me, or this is too tough. Let's embrace that.
It's fantastic. One last question here and I'll get you off the phone. For people seeking breakthrough, that's what this whole show is about. What's the most counterintuitive thing that you have seen in people, in your experience, in society, what the world's feeding us, that says this is the way you get to the next level, success, breakthrough, that is counterintuitive to what you see has actually worked?
Going it alone. Everybody needs community. Everybody needs a tribe, right? Like, you know, that old expression, you're heavily influenced by the 5 people you choose to hang out with the most. Like, take stock in your life of who you're hanging around. Nobody does anything alone, right? So I think sometimes there's this misperception or kind of a certain type of, what's the word, like a lesson almost that's being put out there that, oh, you can do it alone. You don't need people. Trust your gut. Go with your gut.
Self-made man.
Yeah, exactly. Self-made man. He did it all alone. That's being taken a little bit out of context. Yes, the person did it, but they had help along the way. They had a great tribe. They had mentors. They had people within community that they felt were in the trenches with them, that they could share the struggle with and learn from one another and build each other up. So I think that's the biggest misconception, without a doubt, because it's been the single biggest game changer in my life. It continues to be year after year, because the communities I'm a part of, the people that I'm meeting, the doors I'm, going through, and the rooms I'm getting into, and the podcast that I'm getting to share and collaborate with people on, those keep expanding because of that mindset and outlook. So there's no going it alone. No, your community and the people that you're around is important. Keep adding to it if it's the right people. I don't think you can ever have too many. That's bullshit that you think you can't have too many great people in your life. Have all of them, but take stock of what, is in your life and who you're spending time with and who you're getting advice and guidance from, and whether you really truly respect them or not, or are they really rooting for you also, that's an important one. But I think it's the people is what it comes down to, Jared, at least for me.
Dude, I knew this was going to be a dynamite conversation, my man. And by the way, for everybody listening to this, I told you this was going to be a dynamite show. I told you. I love your energy, man. Dude, this is great. I love your energy. We could talk for hours. Certainly, I know you got to run. Give people a little taste as to where they can find you. And like I said at the beginning, and I'm going to say it again, get this guy in between your ears, get him in your soul, because like he's got something that you want, and it helps project you into the next level to do bigger things. So where can people find you?
Thanks, Jared. That means a lot, brother, coming from you. Instagram is definitely the place where I spend the most time. So you can find me there at Arjun Mortgage, Arjun Mortgage, all spelled out, no spaces. And it's me that answers all my DMs. So shoot me a note there. I'd love to connect. Anything I can do to help people, I will do it. So I appreciate you, brother, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
Fantastic, brother.